The Speculum of the Soul, an exhaustive analysis of the science, superstition, and supernatural theories of mirrors. Introduction. The mirror is perhaps the most paradoxical object in human history. Physically, it is a mundane artifact, a substrate of glass or metal designed to reflect photons with minimal scattering. Yet, culturally and psychologically, it is an object of profound complexity, serving as a threshold between the known and the unknown, the self and the shadow, the material and the spiritual. Throughout millennia, the mirror has transitioned from a rare, polished stone reserved for the elite to a ubiquitous household item, yet it has never shed its mystical associations. This report provides a comprehensive, expert-level examination of the mirror in all its dimensions. It synthesizes rigorous optical physics and material chemistry to explain the green tint of infinity and the magic of Han Dynasty bronze. It applies neurobiological frameworks to deconstruct the hallucinations of the Caputo effect, and it conducts a deep anthropological survey of Cat opt romancy, from the obsidian rituals of the Aztec priesthood to the Victorian mourning customs that persist in modern urban legends. By treating the supernatural theories of mirrors not as mere falsehoods but as significant psychological and cultural phenomena, this analysis reveals how the reflective surface serves as a canvas for the human mind's deepest fears and highest aspirations. Part 1. The Physics of Reflection and Optical Realities. To understand the supernatural attributes ascribed to mirrors, invisibility, portals, and distortions, one must first ground the analysis in the hard sciences of optics and materials engineering. The mystique of the mirror often arises from the limits of human perception encountering the specific physical properties of light reflection. 1.1 The chromatic truth, spectral absorption and the green mirror. A pervasive misconception in both casual observation and literary metaphor is that mirrors are intrinsically silver or white. In color theory, a perfect mirror would indeed be white, as it would reflect all wavelengths of the visible spectrum, 380 nanometers to 700 nanometers, with 100% efficiency and no scattering. However, the terrestrial reality of mirror manufacturing renders this impossible. Scientific analysis of the common second surface mirror, the standard household mirror, reveals a distinct spectral bias. These mirrors consist of a soda-lime glass substrate coated on the back with a reflective metal layer. The glass itself is not optically inert. It contains specific impurities, most notably iron oxide, Fe_20_3. These impurities are introduced either naturally through the silica sand source or intentionally to manipulate the glass's melting point and durability. Research indicates that iron oxide preferentially absorbs light in the red and blue regions of the spectrum while allowing a higher transmission of green wavelengths. While a single reflection absorbs only a fraction of the incident light, estimates suggest a standard mirror reflects between 85% and 95% of light. This absorption is cumulative in systems involving multiple reflections. This phenomenon is most visibly demonstrated in the infinity mirror effect, often seen in mirror mazes or when two mirrors face one another. As light bounces back and forth between the parallel surfaces, the path length of the light through the glass substrate increases linearly with each reflection. If a single pass absorbs 5% of the light with a bias against red, blue, by the 50th reflection, the intensity of the image has dropped significantly, and the color balance has shifted aggressively toward 510 to 560 nanometers, green. Thus, deep inside an infinity reflection, the world appears darker and distinctly greener. This physical reality provides a scientific basis for the uncanny, or sickly, atmosphere often described in folklore regarding infinite reflections or portals within mirrors. 1.2 The chemical evolution of the interface. The method of creating a reflective surface has evolved from dangerous alchemy to precise chemistry, a history that parallels the shift from regarding mirrors as magical objects to scientific tools. 1.2.1 The toxic legacy. Tin-mercury amalgams. Prior to the mid-19th century, the dominant method for mirror production, particularly the famed Venetian glass mirrors, involved the tin-mercury amalgam process. Artisans would lay a sheet of tin foil on a table, cover it with liquid mercury, and slide a glass plate over it. The mercury would dissolve the tin, forming a reflective amalgam that adhered to the glass. This process was extraordinarily hazardous. The neurotoxicity of mercury vapor caused tremors, behavioral changes, and early death among artisans, symptoms that may have contributed to the madness often associated with mirror makers in folklore. The rarity and danger of these objects imbued them with immense value and a sense of sorcery. A clear reflection was literally bought with human life. 1.2.2 The Liebig Revolution, 1835. The democratization of the mirror occurred in 1835, credited to the German chemist Justus von Liebig. Liebig developed a safer, more efficient method based on the chemical reduction of silver nitrate, AgNO_3. The chemistry of silvering. The process, known today as the silver mirror reaction, or Tollens test, involves the reduction of silver ions to metallic silver in the presence of a glass surface. The simplified reaction mechanism is: in this reaction, an aldehyde reduces the silver complex, causing metallic silver, Ag, to precipitate out of the solution and coat the glass container. This innovation allowed for the mass production of high-quality, non-toxic mirrors. It shifted the mirror from an object of aristocratic occultism to a mundane fixture of the domestic sphere, though the silver backing, often aluminum in modern industrial applications, retained the linguistic association with the precious metal. 1.3 The physics of the invisible Chinese magic mirrors. One of the most compelling intersections of metallurgy and optics is the ancient Chinese magic mirror, Tuguang Jing. Originating in the Han Dynasty, 202 BC to 220 AD, these bronze artifacts possess a property that baffled Western scientists for centuries. They appear to be solid, opaque bronze, yet when light reflects off them, they project the design cast on their back onto a wall, as if the metal were transparent. The Makio-Kai mechanism. The phenomenon is not supernatural transparency but a feat of precision stress engineering. Asterisk casting. The mirror is cast with a relief design on the back, resulting in a bronze disc of variable thickness. Asterisk polishing. The front surface is scraped and polished to a high gloss. During this process, mechanical stress is applied to the face. Asterisk elastic deformation. The thinner regions of the mirror, corresponding to the deep recesses of the back design, deform slightly more than the thick regions due to the release of internal stresses. They bulge outward microscopically. Asterisk optical projection. This results in a front surface that, while appearing flat to the naked eye, is actually a complex landscape of imperceptible convex and concave curves. When collimated light, like sunlight, strikes this surface, the convex areas scatter the light, appearing dark, and the concave areas focus the light, appearing bright. This variation in reflected intensity reconstructs the image on the projection surface. This effect, known in Japan as Makio, demonstrates how ancient artisans manipulated the wave properties of light through mechanical engineering, creating an effect that remained indistinguishable from magic for 2 millennia. Part 2. The neuropsychology of the gaze. While physics explains how an image is reflected, neuroscience explains how that reflection is perceived, and how the brain can fail to perceive it correctly. The monsters seen in mirrors during rituals are rarely supernatural entities. They are the products of the brain's facial processing networks malfunctioning under sensory deprivation. 2.1 The Caputo effect, dissociation and the strange face illusion. In 2010, psychologist Giovanni Caputo published a seminal study on the strange face illusion, providing a clinical framework for phenomena often described in ghost stories. The experimental protocol required subjects to stare into their own eyes in a mirror in a dimly lit room, approximately 0.8 lux, for 10 minutes. Experimental results. The findings were startlingly consistent with descriptions of supernatural encounters. 66% of participants reported significant deformations of their own face. 18% saw the face of a parent, often with altered or wrong traits. 28% saw an unknown person. 48% saw fantastical or monstrous beings. Others reported animal faces, cat, pig, lion, or archetypal faces, an old woman, a child. The neurological mechanism. The illusion is hypothesized to result from a disruption in the visuomotor loop. The brain's facial recognition system, centered in the fusiform face area, is constantly updating its model of self based on sensory input. Under low light, the visual data is degraded, low signal-to-noise ratio. Simultaneously, The observer enters a dissociative state. The brain, struggling to bind the incomplete visual features into a coherent self, begins to access its internal database of facial archetypes to fill in the gaps. This is a form of aggressive pareidolia. The monster is the brain's projection of a generic or feared face onto the blank canvas of the fading reflection. 2.2 Troxler's fading versus the Caputo effect. It is critical to distinguish between two distinct optical phenomena that occur during mirror gazing, as they are often conflated in pop science explanations. Phenomenon, mechanism, visual experience. Pipe dash 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 pipe dash 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 pipe dash 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 pipe. Troxler's fading, neural adaptation, retina, LGN, peripheral images fade to neutral gray, white. Features disappear entirely. Caputo effect, high-level visual cortex processing, features distort, morph, or are replaced. The face remains visible, but changes identity. Troxler's fading, discovered by Ignaz Troxler in 1804, occurs when the eyes fixate on a single point. Photoreceptors in the retina adapt to the unchanging stimulus and stop firing, causing the static details in the periphery to vanish. The Caputo effect is more active, as Troxler's effect erases parts of the face, e.g., a cheek or an eye. The brain's pattern matching system panics and hallucinates a replacement feature. This rapid cycle of fading and reconstruction creates the terrifying, morphing, animation reported by participants in the Bloody Mary ritual. 2.3 Clinical implications and susceptibility. Research suggests that susceptibility to mirror illusions correlates with specific psychological traits. Individuals diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder or schizophrenia report more intense and rapid onset of the strange face illusion. Neurophysiologically, this is linked to lower connectivity in the primary visual network and higher connectivity in the default mode network, DMN, the part of the brain responsible for self-referential thought and daydreaming. When the sensory input, mirror image, is weak, the DMN overpowers the visual cortex, literally overlaying internal thoughts and fears onto the external reflection. This suggests that the spirits seen by those with high schizotypy are internal projections made visible by the mirror's optical ambiguity. Part 3. Katoptromancy, the ancient art of mirror divination. Before the mirror was a tool for vanity, it was a tool for katoptromancy, divination by mirror. Across independent civilizations, the reflective surface was viewed as a portal to the divine intellect or a trap for the spirit world. The history of this practice reveals a deep human desire to use optics to bypass the constraints of time. 3.1 Mesoamerica, the smoking mirror of Tezcatlipoca. The Aztec civilization possessed perhaps the most sophisticated theological integration of the mirror. Central to their pantheon was Tezcatlipoca, Nahuatl for smoking mirror, the omnipotent god of night, sorcery, conflict, and divination. The materiality of the divine. Aztec mirrors were not made of metal but of obsidian, volcanic glass, or pyrite, polished to a high sheen. Tezcatlipoca is frequently depicted in codices with an obsidian mirror replacing his right foot or worn on his chest. This mirror was not passive. It was an instrument of revelation. The term, smoking, likely refers to the visual quality of obsidian, a dark, hazy reflection that obscures as much as it reveals, symbolizing the hidden nature of destiny and the underworld. Ritual scrying. The Florentine Codex, compiled by Bernardino de Sahagun, details the accoutrements of Tezcatlipoca, describing his headpiece made of rich plumes, sprinkled with golden stars, and the mirror which he used to see all the things of the world. Priests and rulers would gaze into these dark surfaces to communicate with the deity, confess sins, or foresee the outcome of battles. The mirror was a threshold. To look into it was to look into the eyes of the God who could give and take life. 3.2 The lineage of John Dee's spirit mirror. A direct physical link exists between Aztec blood rituals and the court of Queen Elizabeth. The first one of the most famous occult objects in existence is the spirit mirror of Dr. John Dee, the Elizabethan polymath, mathematician, and astrologer. Provenance and analysis. For centuries, Dee's mirror was a mystery. However, geochemical analysis performed in 2019 confirmed that the obsidian originated from the Pachuca source in Mexico, a site controlled by the Aztecs. The provenance of this object, traced through the British Museum's records, outlines its journey from Tenochtitlan to London. Origin, Aztec Empire, c. 14th–16th century. Acquisition, plundered during the Spanish conquest and brought to Europe. John Dee, acquired in the late 16th century. Dee used it to summon angels and spirits, relying on the mediumship of Edward Kelly. Horace Walpole. The mirror eventually passed to the famous Gothic writer Horace Walpole in 1770, who labeled it the Devil's Looking Glass. British Museum, acquired in 1966. This object represents a transatlantic migration of superstition. The Aztec tool for communing with Tezcatlipoca became the English tool for communing with archangels, demonstrating the universal human belief that the dark reflection is a communication device. 3.3 Greco-Roman Katoptromancy. In classical antiquity, mirror divination was a structured religious institution. The Temple of Demeter at Patras featured a renowned oracle described by the Greek traveler Pausanias, c. 2nd century CE, the ritual of Patras. The ritual was specifically for the sick. A mirror was suspended by a fine thread over a sacred spring until the rim just grazed the water's surface. After prayers and incense offerings to Demeter, the supplicant would gaze into the wet mirror. If the face appeared fresh and healthy, recovery was predicted. If the face appeared ghastly or distorted, death was imminent. This practice likely exploited the optical distortions caused by the water's ripples and the low light of the temple to induce the Caputo effect, which the priests then interpreted as divine prophecy. The Speculari. In Rome, a class of priests known as Speculari specialized in gazing into polished metal bowls or mirrors to direct the will of the gods. This practice was sufficiently widespread that early Christian theologians condemned it as anoptromancy, associating the illusions seen in mirrors with demonic deception. Part 4. Anthropological and religious paradigms. Beyond divination, mirrors play a crucial role in the rites of passage, specifically death and mourning, across diverse cultures. The common thread is the belief that the reflection is not a mere image, but a part of the soul, or animus, that is vulnerable to entrapment. 4.1 The Jewish custom of covering mirrors. In Judaism, the practice of Shiva, the week of mourning, involves covering all mirrors in the home of the deceased. While modern interpretations often cite the avoidance of vanity and the need to focus on inner grief, the custom has deeper, more mystical roots in Kabbalistic thought. The vacuum of the soul. Kabbalistic teaching suggests that the departure of a soul leaves a spiritual vacuum or void in the household. Nature abhors a vacuum, and dark forces, or demonic entities, Shedim, may rush to fill this space. A mourner looking into a mirror might catch a glimpse of these entities lurking in the reflection. Furthermore, there is a fear that the soul of the deceased, disoriented by its separation from the body, might see its reflection in an uncovered mirror and become trapped, delaying its journey to the afterlife. The covering of the mirror acts as a spiritual quarantine, protecting both the living and the dead. 4.2 Victorian death rituals. Similar anxieties pervaded Victorian England. Upon a death, mirrors were immediately draped in black crepe. The fear was twofold. Soul snare. Like the Jewish belief, the Victorians feared the spirit would be snared by the glass. The next death. It was a common superstition that if a living person saw their reflection in a room with a corpse, they would be the next to die. The mirror was viewed as a recording device. Once it had seen death, it could project it onto the next viewer. 4.3 Islamic beliefs, the jinn and the Quran. In Islamic cultural traditions, distinct from Quranic doctrine, though derived from hadith literature, the mirror is intimately connected to the world of the jinn, spirits made of smokeless fire. The bathroom mirror. Hadith traditions identify impurities and places of filth, like bathrooms, as the dwelling places of jinn. Consequently, a widespread cultural prohibition exists against looking into a bathroom mirror at night or in the dark. It is believed that the jinn can access the human world through the reflective surface, leading to possession or physical harm. The Quran. Every human is believed to have a Quran, a constant spiritual companion or double. Some folk beliefs suggest that prolonged mirror gazing allows one to see their Quran, which can be a terrifying or madness-inducing experience. 4.4 Vastu Shastra, The energetic mirror. In Vastu Shastra, the ancient Indian science of architecture, the mirror is not a passive object but an active manipulator of prana, energy. Asterisk the sleeping prohibition. Vastu strictly forbids placing a mirror directly in front of a bed. During sleep, the body is believed to release stress and negative energy. If a mirror faces the sleeper, this energy is reflected back into the body, disturbing the soul and causing restlessness or illness. Asterisk directional flow. Mirrors are associated with the water element. They are encouraged on northern and eastern walls to reflect positive solar and magnetic energy, but are considered dangerous if placed on southern or western walls, where they may amplify negative solar gain. 4.5 The 7 years of bad luck. The most famous mirror superstition, that breaking one causes 7 years of bad luck, is a syncretic belief combining Roman physiology with material history. Asterisk Roman physiology. The Romans believed that the human body underwent a complete biological renewal every 7 years. Asterisk soul fragmentation. Since the mirror captured the image of the soul, breaking it was equivalent to shattering the soul itself. Asterisk the curse's duration. The bad luck was simply the time required for the body to complete its 7-year cycle and generate a new soul that was undamaged. Asterisk countermeasures. Folklore provided remedies to shorten this duration, such as grinding the shards into dust, so they could no longer reflect, or burying them by moonlight. Part 5. Cryptozoology and spectral entities. If the mirror can trap a human soul, it can also repel, or fail to reflect, non-human entities. The relationship between monsters and mirrors is a key diagnostic feature in global folklore. 5.1 The vampire, silver versus the soul. The absence of a vampire's reflection is a staple of Gothic horror, but the explanation for this phenomenon has shifted over time. The silver backing theory. A modern theory, popularized on the internet, posits that vampires have no reflection because pre-modern mirrors were backed with silver. Since silver is considered a holy metal, pure, it refuses to reflect the image of the damned, the vampire. This implies that a vampire would have a reflection in a modern aluminum-backed mirror. The soul theory. However, folklore predating the invention of silvered mirrors suggests a more metaphysical cause. In many European traditions, the reflection is the visual manifestation of the soul. Since the vampire is undead and has lost its soul, it physically cannot cast a reflection. It is an empty shell. This theory is supported by the vampire's inability to appear in photographs in some lore, as the camera also captures the essence of the subject. 5.2 Jiangshi, the mirror as weapon. In Chinese folklore, the Jiangshi, stiff corpse, or hopping vampire, has an inverted relationship with the mirror compared to the Western vampire. Asterisk the creature. The Jiangshi is a reanimated corpse, often covered in greenish mold, stiff with rigor mortis, that feeds on qi, life force. Asterisk the mirror ward. The Jiangshi is terrified of its own reflection. In Taoist exorcism traditions, a mirror, often the Bagua mirror, is a primary weapon. When a Jiangshi sees its own decomposed and horrific visage in a mirror, it is struck by the truth of its death and is repelled or immobilized. Here, the mirror acts as an agent of truth, light that evil cannot withstand, rather than a passive observer. 5.3 The Suquoiant and skin shedding. In Caribbean folklore, Trinidad, Guadeloupe, the Suquoiant, or Old Hig, is a shape-shifting witch who sheds her human skin at night to travel as a fireball and suck the blood of the living. Asterisk detection. While the primary defense is placing salt in her shed skin, which burns her when she tries to re-enter it, mirrors are used as detection devices. Similar to the vampire, the Suquoiant may have an anomalous reflection, or the mirror may be used to spot the approach of the fireball without looking directly at it, protecting the viewer from her gaze. Part 6. Modern urban legends and cursed artifacts. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the ancient rituals of Cat romancy morphed into the slumber party ritual. The mirror remains the central prop, but the goal shifts from divining the future to testing one's endurance against fear. 6.1 Bloody Mary, the rite of passage. The legend of Bloody Mary is the quintessential modern mirror ritual, deeply embedded in Western youth culture. The ritual structure. The participant must enter a bathroom, a tiled, echoing, private space, turn off the lights, light a candle, and chant Bloody Mary variously 3, 5, or 13 times into the mirror. The expectation is that a blood-covered woman will appear and scratch or kill the summoner. Folklore analysis. Folklorists interpret this legend as a prepubescent rite of passage, specifically for girls. The name, Bloody Mary, is linked to Mary I of England, who burned Protestants, or a generic witch, but the blood association often serves as a metaphor for menstruation. The setting. The bathroom is the site of hygiene and bodily maintenance. The function. The ritual allows adolescents to confront their anxieties about bodily maturation and the blood of womanhood in a controlled, peer-supported environment. The monster in the mirror is a manifestation of the fear of growing up. 6.2 Candyman, from fiction to fakelore. The Candyman legend offers a fascinating case study of how mass media can override oral tradition, creating fakelore. The literary origin. The character originated in Clive Barker's 1985 short story, The Forbidden. In the original text, the Candyman is a hook-handed killer in a British housing estate, but there is no ritual involving a mirror. He is summoned by the collective belief of the community, not a game. The cinematic alchemy. The 1992 film adaptation, directed by Bernard Rose, transplanted the story to Chicago's Cabrini Green projects. Crucially, Rose decided to graft the Bloody Mary mechanic onto the Candyman mythos to give the audience a recognizable hook. In the film, saying Candyman 5 times in a mirror summons him. The film was so successful that the mirror ritual has now been retroactively accepted as real folklore by many, blurring the line between a Hollywood invention and genuine urban legend. 6.3 The Hookman and the Mirror. While often remembered as a Lover's Lane story involving a car door, the Hookman legend shares thematic DNA with mirror legends. It represents the intruder who is simultaneously outside, the escaped convict, and inside, the scratch on the door. In films like I Know What You Did Last Summer, the legend evolves to include mirror messages, I still know, appearing in Steam, utilizing the mirror as a medium for threats from the past. 6.4 Case studies of haunted mirrors. Certain physical mirrors have gained infamy as cursed objects, attracting tourists and paranormal investigators. 6.4.1 The Myrtles Plantation, St. Francisville, Louisiana. The Myrtles Plantation claims to be one of America's most haunted homes, and its centerpiece is a large antique mirror in the hallway. The narrative. Legend holds that a slave named Chloe poisoned Sarah Woodruff and her children. Their spirits are said to be trapped in the mirror. The phenomena. Visitors report seeing handprints, inside, the glass, dripping residue, and the faces of children. The analysis. While believers cite ectoplasm, skeptics note that antique mirrors often suffer from desilvering, where the silver backing oxidizes and flakes, creating black spots, drips, and cloudy areas that can easily be interpreted as handprints or faces via pareidolia. 6.4.2 Zak Bagans, Dark Mirror. Housed in the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, this mirror allegedly belonged to actor Bela Lugosi. The claims. Bagans states the mirror witnessed a murder and that looking into it can show the viewer their own death or a rotting face. The experience. Visitors reportedly faint or feel aggressive urges. This is likely a potent combination of the power of suggestion, priming, the museum's atmosphere, and the Caputo effect induced by staring into the dark glass. 6.4.3 The Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. A full-length mirror that once stood in Suite 1200 is said to house the ghost of Marilyn Monroe. The sighting. Guests and staff have reported seeing a blonde woman applying lipstick in the reflection, only to find the room empty. The mirror has been moved to the lobby, where it remains a focal point for tourist photos, perpetuating the legend through social affirmation. Part 7. Pseudoscience and the Quantum Frontier. As traditional superstition wanes in the face of secularism, it is replaced by techno-mysticism, the misuse of scientific terminology to validate supernatural beliefs. 7.1 The Kazayef Mirror, Time Density and Telepathy. One of the most bizarre intersections of physics and the paranormal is the Kazayef mirror, named after Soviet astrophysicist Nikolai Kazayef. The device. These are not glass mirrors but large, spiral-shaped sheets of polished aluminum, sometimes laser-matted, that form a cylindrical chamber. They act as concave reflectors, but not for light. The theory. Kazayev, and later researchers like V. Kaznachev, hypothesized that time is a form of energy or flow that interacts with matter. They argued that these specific aluminum spirals could shield the interior from the time flow of the universe and focus time density toward the center. The experiments. In the 1990s, experiments in Siberia claimed that subjects sitting inside these mirrors experienced telepathy, enhanced transmission of symbols between distant participants. Chronal anomalies, visions of the past or future. UFO manifestations, glowing balls of light appearing in the vicinity. Scientific consensus. These claims remain firmly in the realm of fringe science. Mainstream physics does not recognize time density as a manipulatable variable. The visions are generally attributed to sensory deprivation, the Ganzfeld effect, amplified by the electromagnetic shielding of the aluminum. 7.2 Quantum mysticism, the entangled ghost. A common trope in modern ghost hunting is the invocation of quantum mechanics to explain spiritual phenomena. The misconception. Proponents argue that quantum entanglement, Einstein's spooky action at a distance, proves that consciousness can exist outside the body or that spirits can communicate instantly across dimensions. The physics rebuttal. Quantum entanglement describes the correlation of states between subatomic particles. It does not allow for the transfer of information, let alone personality or complex data, faster than light, nor does it apply to macroscopic objects like ghosts. Physicists emphasize a simple binary. If a ghost can reflect light, to be seen in a mirror, it must interact with the electromagnetic force. If it interacts with electromagnetism, it is made of matter, electrons, protons. If it is made of matter, it cannot walk through walls. The mirror ghost violates the standard model of particle physics. 7.3 Wormholes and conservation of energy. Science fiction frequently depicts mirrors as wormholes, Einstein-Rosen bridges, to other worlds. The constraint. In general relativity, maintaining a traversable wormhole requires exotic matter with negative energy density to keep the throat open, matter that has never been observed in sufficient quantities. The perpetuum mobile. Furthermore, a mirror wormhole would violate the conservation of energy. If an object entered a wormhole mirror at height A and emerged at height B, where B greater than A, with the same kinetic energy, it would gain gravitational potential energy from nothing. By cycling through the mirror repeatedly, one could generate infinite energy. Since the universe appears to conserve energy, such portal mirrors are physical impossibilities. Conclusion. The mirror is the ultimate Rorschach test of the human species. Physically, it is nothing more than a greenish, imperfect reflector of photons, governed by the reduction of silver nitrate and the laws of specular reflection. Neurologically, it is a trigger for the brain's inherent fragility. Strip away the light, and the mind dissociates, painting monsters over the void of the self to preserve a sense of identity. However, culturally, the mirror is a heavy object. It carries the weight of the Aztec underworld, the fear of the Victorian mourner, the vanity of the Hollywood star, and the terror of the slumber party dare. It is the tool by which we check our physical appearance and the tool by which we interrogate our spiritual fate. Whether used to repel a Chinese vampire, summon a British queen, or communicate with an Aztec god, the mirror remains the boundary line where our understanding of the physical world meets our fear of the metaphysical. The supernatural theories surrounding mirrors are not merely superstitions. They are the result of the human mind trying to make sense of the one thing it can never truly escape, itself. Data Appendix. Key mirror phenomena and origins. Phenomenon, cultural origin, attributed cause, supernatural, attributed cause, scientific, sociological. 7 years bad luck, Roman Empire, breaking the soul's reflection, cycle. 7-year cycle of physiological renewal, vampire no reflection, European folklore, lack of soul, unholy nature. Symbolic dehumanization, pre-silver mirrors. Bloody Mary, USA, 20th C. Summoning a vengeful witch, queen. Caputo effect, puberty rite of passage. Covering mirrors, Jewish, Victorian, preventing soul entrapment, vacuums. Morning focus, prevention of dissociation. Jiangxi Ward, China, reveal truth, scare the corpse. Symbolic power of truth, light. Kazayev effect, Russia, Cold War, time density manipulation. Sensory deprivation, placebo, fringe physics. Macchio, magic mirror, China, Han Dine. Spiritual transparency, elastic deformation, stress engineering. End of report.